Hello and welcome to another Stamp with Amy K YouTube Live. And I am just out here taking a peek at my YouTube page and hopefully making sure that I'm live out on the right page at the right time, which it looks like I am. So, okay, I think I've got it all set up here and ready to go for comments. So if you are joining in, feel free to say a little hello. I'd appreciate it. And if you're watching the video later, that is just great too. So thanks so much for checking out the replay. Today we are going to show you really quickly. Let me slide this over here just a little bit. Trying to get everything, like I said, I'm still getting used to the new camera on my phone, so I moved the height of the camera up a little bit. So I'm hoping that it's still okay. Anyway, so just out here, just going to show you really quickly how I made a Mother's Day card, which is this little card with the Dress to Impress stamp set bundle. Hey, Patricia, thanks for hopping in today. So I appreciate it. So made a Mother's Day card, but this one really, I think you could use for pretty much any occasion. But, you know, that's just my opinion. But like I said, I turned it into Mother's Day because I need a couple of those. So, hey, Barbara, thanks for joining today. So this is the card we're going to be making. And we are using the Dress to Impress stamp set bundle, which I think I've used this a couple of times. I feel like I have on some previous videos, but it's a bundle from the 2020 mini January to June mini catalog, and so it's available now to purchase. So it is a really good, cute little stamp set with some good sentiments and things in it. And then it has this cool die set, and I know that I've made the little purses with this before out on a video, and very cool, cute little purses that you can make with it. So there's a purse die and a strap, a little closure, a little pocket for the purse, some buttons for the purse, buckles for the purse. So it's a cute die set. So, but there also are dies in here that coordinate with some of the images on the from the stamp set, and we're actually going to be using this die, which of course is upside down on here today. This die, and we're going to be cutting out the little perfume bottles from the Dress to Impress stamp set. So I'm going to set those aside here for a second. And then the other stamps that I used actually on the inside of the card, just did a little Mother's Day, you know, just a thank you sentiment on the inside. And I pulled out the Strong and Beautiful stamp set from the annual catalog, the 2019 to 2020 annual catalog. So this is a good stamp set, lots of really good sentiments for both inside and outside cards. So this one, again, is one that is in the current annual catalog, and we will see if it will carry over or not on April 22nd. Either way, it's definitely a stamp set I think you should get. Again, it's called Strong and Beautiful. Lots of good sentiments for any of the women in your life, you know, girls, women, ladies, whatever. So any of the females in your life. So definitely a good stamp set to have around. A couple other things that we used are the Ornate Layers dies, which are a new die set. This is actually going to be in the 2020 to 2021 annual catalog. Stampin' Up! Has done an early release, and these products are available now for purchase, which is awesome. So the die that we used actually on this card, it's the little background piece here. I actually used this die and then use this die. So this little, the rectangle one in the middle was not included in it, but just used a couple of the layering pieces here and just did a die cut where I cut around the outside and then cut this as a little kind of decorative piece in the center when I did the die cutting. So again, these are the Ornate Layers dies, and if you're interested in getting these, they're available now. The details are posted out on my blog, and I'll be sharing them again in the blog post that I do for tomorrow with this. When I share that, all the details about the card, I'll have it linked up in there as well, so you'll be able to see where you can purchase those. And then I have also got the stitched rectangle dies, and we are going to use the littlest, narrowest rectangle here to cut out the sentiment. So I will set those aside as well. One other thing that I used on it is the Parisian Flourish embossing folder, and actually it's run this way on the card, but it's one of the 3D embossing folders, one of the new style ones, so definitely get your hands on that 3D embossing folder plate. If you don't have it yet, it makes the new embossing folders much, much, much easier to use. So no guessing as far as what your stack should be on it, or your sandwich should be. Just use your embossing plate on the bottom, paper inside the embossing folder, the blue plate on the top, and zip it right through, and it works perfectly. So let me set that aside. And then before we get going, there are two things I want to talk about, and then I promise I will get going on the card. So first things first, we are doing a team event, and I posted some of the details about this on my blog today, and it's also out on my Facebook page. And I'll be sharing more details as the week goes along. But we are doing a team event showing off some of the Ornate Garden Product Suite products, and will be next week, Saturday, April 18th, from around 1 o'clock in the afternoon until 6 o'clock in the afternoon or evening Eastern time. So whatever time zone you're in, you'll have to calculate that out, but it's Eastern time. So we will be on, we'll be sharing just projects that we've made by pictures and projects that have a couple of people that will be hopping on and doing live presentations, showing you how to make projects with the stamp set bundles, the products that are in the suite. So if it's something you're interested in, let me know. I will be posting a link to join out on my blog as well as on my Facebook page. I'll post a link to join this Facebook group starting on the 16th of April. So you can hop in there and take a peek at what we'll be doing. So it should be a lot of fun. We're definitely looking forward to it. And then the last thing that I talked about briefly earlier was the Ornate Garden Product Suite items are actually available for sale now. So this is the flyer. Again, it's out on my blog today. It'll be on it again tomorrow. So you can see the details. You can purchase it either as one huge product suite and get everything, or you can pick and choose the items that you are interested in. There are a couple of stamp set bundles. There's designer series paper, ribbons. There's a new embossing folder, new embellishments. So lots of good stuff. So if you are interested in any of that, go take a peek at my blog today. Feel free to ask questions, and we'll get started on the card. So thanks again for joining today and spending a part of your Friday with me. I feel like it's Saturday today. I guess the kids don't have school, so it's been kind of a, it's a little, I get all mixed up on what day it is anyway, and then add in that the kids don't have school, and I don't have any idea. So I'm glad that I showed up at the right time. So, all right. So I went ahead and did a little bit of, hey, Karen, thanks for hopping in today. So did a little of this ahead of time. So I embossed a panel of Whisper White cardstock. This is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And again, I'll have all the details and all the cardstock cuts on my blog tomorrow, so no worries. No need to write everything down or try to keep up. I will be posting everything tomorrow. So, and I will link it up in the comments section under this video as well, so you'll be able to see the blog post if you're interested. So I've got this pre-embossed, and this is a panel of Whisper White cardstock that's cut to 4 1/4 by 5. I'm sorry, 4 by 5 1/4. See, this is why I tell you to look at my blog, because I always say the wrong thing when I'm on the video. So, well, I'm glad that you like it, Karen. It was a fun card to put together. I kind of messed around with it and was trying to figure out what colors I wanted to use, and then finally just decided I was going with the colors that I started with initially and went forward, and I like the way it turned out. So, all right, so just gluing these together with a little bit of multi-purpose liquid glue, and give that just a second to kind of set up here. And I'm going to set that up here for a minute, and then I'm going to go ahead and, again, I had pre-cut this with two of the Ornate Layers dies, and it was really easy to do. All I did was basically laid the one die down on a piece of champagne foil cardstock, and then took the other die and just put it right in the center of it, and I ran them both through together. Initially, when I had done it, I had cut just the outside piece, and then I decided I wanted the inside done, and so I ran it through a second time with the inside piece in. And because my cutting plates, they look terrible. They're all chewed up, and I use mine until they absolutely die. So when I ran it back through a second time, it sort of left a lot of marks on the foil sheets, which I did not necessarily love. So when I did it for a second time, well, and actually a third time, I actually did the two together, and that seemed to keep the plates up high enough so that they didn't mark up my foil sheets, which if you have clean, brand new plates, you don't have to worry about that. But if you're like me and use your plates until they snap in two, then you may want to try the trick of doing the two dies together. And then I didn't get the little marks and things on the foil paper because that stuff, it's kind of delicate. I don't know. It's sort of a delicate flower, I guess we'll say. All right. So I went ahead and pre-cut that. Again, this is champagne foil sheets. And I'm just going to use a little bit of the multi-purpose liquid glue. Normally I use snail on things like this, but because of the kind of bumpy embossing on here, I chose to use the liquid glue so that I make sure that hopefully this will stay together really well. Snail sometimes doesn't always hold the best, especially when it's on kind of bumpy surfaces like the embossed areas on the front of this card. So just going to use this and hold it down for a second to make sure that it's adhered well, and hopefully I get it on there straight. So again, the multi-purpose liquid glue gives me a second to sort of wiggle things around if I did not get it put down straight, which is also a little advantage to the liquid glues. So, all right, so I'm going to set that over here for a second. Actually, we're going to take then, I've got a Whisper White thick Whisper White card base, cut to 5.5 by 8.5, and I've got it scored at 4.25. And just going to use a couple little Stampin' Dimensionals. They are really pretty dies, Patricia. I'm excited for everybody to start getting them. I know that I've had some people asking me, and there have been some delays, unfortunately, getting some of the things shipped out of the Stampin' Up! Warehouse. They are still open, but they have been having some shipping delays just because they had to change sort of the way their warehouse worked in order to make sure that they could minimize the risk to their employees from kind of contaminating each other in the event that somebody should come down with the coronavirus. So they've sort of had to shift some things around, and unfortunately it affected their shipping. So it's taken a little bit longer than normal to get things shipped out. So, but I'm glad that they're still up and running, that we're still able to order, because I know a lot of businesses are not, that's pretty rough. So, all right. So I went ahead of time and stamped some and die cut some of the perfume bottles from the Dress to Impress stamp set. I just stamped them in Tuxedo Black Memento ink on Whisper White cardstock, and we're going to do a little bit of coloring with some Stampin' blends. I'm going to start with the light, hopefully I've got the right, light Highland Heather. And I always have to double check that because sometimes the caps get put on the wrong one. Not that I would ever do that. But sometimes you pull it out and I'm like, this is not the light. When I go down on the paper, I'm like, whoops, that's a little darker than I planned for it to be. So I generally start with the light and then go back and add in the dark later. But if you do them the other way around, there's no right or wrong way to coloring. You get to kind of pick how it works best for you. I've just found personally that I like to do light and then add in the dark, just because I can always add in more color. It's a little harder to take it away, which you can take it away a little bit with the color lifter, but it's not always the easiest thing to do. So, all right, then we're going to come back up here and color the top part of the little bottle. Is it the stopper? I guess it's probably the stopper that it's called. I'm not sure in a fancy bottle if it's still called a stopper or if there's some other official name for it. So, hey, Charlotte, thanks for hopping on, and hello from Saskatchewan, Canada. Hopefully you're staying warm up there. We've had some kind of crazy weather today. It's actually snowed here for a few minutes a couple times, which is a little weird. I was kind of not expecting that today because it had been beautiful here earlier in the week, and actually almost not quite shorts weather, but definitely did not need a jacket kind of weather. And then all of a sudden here we are, it's 40 degrees and snowing today. So just been a little bit odd. So, all right. And I'm taking the dark Highland Heather and just kind of going around. Hopefully you can see I went around the base of the bottle a little bit and then added a little bit of color here in to the edges of the bottle. And then I am going to go back with my light Highland Heather and kind of fill in anywhere that I've either got like a stark line or maybe didn't color it very well the first time and I've got a white spot. So just sort of blending things together a little bit. So hopefully y'all are enjoying your Friday, and I don't know, it's going to be a little weird with no family get-togethers and things this weekend. Normally, Easter weekend, at least here in the U.S., is kind of a big time for families to get together, and the Easter egg hunts and all that sort of thing. And I don't think a lot of that's going to be happening. At least it shouldn't be. So doing a little bit of petal pink. This, again, is starting with the light petal pink ink, and I'm going to just color in around the edge of the label here. And I know that there are 3 of these on the card front, so no worries. Through the magic of television, you will not have to sit and watch me color all 3 of these, but I did want to color one of them so you could kind of see how I added color to it, and then magically the other 2 are just going to be done. So I have coming back and adding in a little bit of the dark petal pink, again, just around the edges. And then I'm going to come back in with the light and blend the 2 together a little bit. So does anybody have plans with their family to do any kind of a Zoom meeting or anything? My family, we've been doing Zoom meetings on Sundays. We hop together on Sunday afternoons, so we're planning to do that again on Sunday, just to say hello and check in and see how everybody's doing. Most of my family lives in the Midwest still, in Iowa, South Dakota, Minnesota area. And I'm coming back in with a color lifter. I guess I should probably tell you that instead of telling you my family story. Just coming back in with the color lifter and kind of taking a little bit of the color off from the top of the bottle to give it a little bit more of a 3D effect. Hopefully, at least that was my plan with it. Also coloring it over the label here just a little bit to kind of lighten that, make it look like the light was shining on it. And that's really all the coloring that I did for the perfume bottles. So again, I had the other two that I had colored ahead of time, but it was basically the same process for all of them. So, all right, so yeah, I'm gonna adhere down 2 of the bottles with glue dots, and then we're gonna put a little ribbon on. But yeah, we're getting together by Zoom, and we're just gonna chat and you know, sort of like we have been doing the last couple Sundays. Most of my family lives within, I don't know, probably an hour or 2 of each other up in the Midwest. I'm the kind of oddball one that lives out in New Jersey, but it's been a little, you know, I'm sort of used to not seeing my family all the time, but they kind of got together a lot, and it's been a little weird for them to not be able to get together with each other. And, you know, everybody's kind of hiding out in their own homes, and they're talking to each other on the phone, but, you know, just aren't getting to see each other in person very often. So they're having to get used to that, which again, you know, it's a little different, but everybody's staying safe. So I guess that is the important thing. And all right, so we got those 2 adhered down with a little bit of glue dot, or a couple of glue dots. And then the next thing I did was took some of the Petal Pink metallic edge ribbon that we got. It's a 1/4 inch Petal Pink metallic edge ribbon, which is really pretty. And it matched with the I sort of like, you know, trying to go for the pretty look. It's got, I think it's supposed to be champagne metallic along the edge. So I figured that was a good thing to add in with the already champagne pieces that I was putting on. So I'm adding a little bit of snail on here, and then I'm just going to take my Petal Pink ribbon and I'm going to make a little bit of a Z. And before I stick it down for good, I just want to make sure that I've got it placed where I want it to be. So I want it peeking out from both sides of the champagne bottle, the perfume bottle. So I think that's going to be about where I want it to be. And then just going to make a little Z with the ribbon and snip it off here. Hopefully I will get it. Yeah, there we go. I think I got it cut fairly reasonably. So New Jersey is a good place. I agree. So far we've been pretty happy in our little town here. So definitely, I know that New Jersey's got some of the higher rates as far as people being sick, but in our little area so far, we haven't really had very many cases right around us. It's mostly closer to New York City, and we're not very close to New York City. We're kind of we're pretty rural out here, so haven't really had a lot of cases, and so we're staying well, and you know, trying to keep our time outside of the house to a minimum at this point, and so far so good for us. So hopefully it'll stay that way. Although the mom in me really is a little anxious to get school back up and running for the kids. So I don't know how the other moms feel, but I'm sort of, I wouldn't mind if school went back in session sooner rather than later, but you know, I know it's a tough decision for everybody, and trying to figure out when is the best time to send everybody back. I wouldn't like to be the person making that decision. So, all right. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp the sentiment. Again, I'm making mine a Mother's Day card, and it's from the Dress to Impress stamp set, which is a photopolymer stamp set. I'm using Versamark ink, and we're going to do a little heat embossing with copper embossing powder. I really, really, really wish that we had champagne embossing powder, but at this point we do not, so I can always hope that on our next annual catalog they will have some champagne embossing powder, because I would love that. But for now, I personally feel like copper is about the closest color that we have to it, so that is what I have been using when I've been using the champagne accessories. I've just used the copper embossing powder, and feel like that gets pretty close. Silver actually isn't too bad with it either, so I feel like that's a nice, if you prefer silver over the copper, silver's a nice alternative as well. So let me get this out of the way and try not to hit the camera again. Pulling out my Stampin' Up! Heat tool, which again, I know I've talked about this in the past. It's got 2 settings on it. It's got a level 1 setting for drying ink and a level 2 setting for heat embossing. And I'm gonna turn on the level 2 setting so we can heat emboss. And thank you, Sandra, I appreciate that. So I have a lot of fun making the cards, so I'm glad that you enjoy seeing them too. So I'm just letting my heat tool warm up for a second while I get this ready, hopefully to heat emboss here. hopefully. Yep, there we go. It's starting to turn. Hopefully you can see that on the camera. I'm not sure how easy it is to see, but it goes from kind of a dry looking powder to a pretty shiny embossed image when it's all done. So you definitely want to do a little bit of, let it cool for just a second before you start doing anything with it, die cutting it or anything, because you can easily smear the freshly embossed ink, which, again, I've done it all. I've ruined a lot of cardstock doing things like that. So definitely give it a second to dry. And we are going to then take one of the smallest, narrowest of the stitched rectangle dies, and I'm going to cut this out quickly. So I'm going to wheel over here for a second. And hopefully get this run through the die cutting machine quick. Which I always plan for it to be quick, but sometimes it goes better than others. Sometimes I have to wrestle with it a little. All right. I think I got it cut out of there fairly straight, which is always the goal. All right, so there we go. Let me set this aside. And again, I know I've talked about it before on previous videos, but particularly when you're using the rectangle dies, if you can run them through at just a slight angle through the die cutting machine like this, rather than straight on, when it goes through the rollers a lot smoother if you can angle it a little bit, rather than rolling it straight through and having it hit that sharp edge, and then there's a big bump and clunk, and it doesn't always cut very nicely when you do that. So that's my tip that I've probably said too many times, but just want to make sure that everybody knows that that's definitely the best way to get your rectangles to cut easily. Going to add a little bit of snail to the middle of the die cut, and then I'm going to add a little Stampin' Dimensional on the end. And I'm not sure if I'm going to need a second Stampin' Dimensional, because I can see that it's probably going to be over the ribbon. So we'll sort of see how things line up here as I'm adhering it. And I may have to put a little Stampin' Dimensional on there after all. But yep, I think I'm going to need a little Stampin' Dimensional, which I can always thankfully tuck one of those underneath without usually wrestling with it too much. One little thing that I have found is sometimes if I take my snips and stick it to the end of my snips, and then I can lift up the paper and sort of tuck it underneath, and then smash it down, and then pull the snips out. And it really easily adheres things, rather than if I try to stick it under with my fingers, then it's all stuck to my fingers and not anywhere where I want it to be. So, all right, the last thing on the card front is I did use a couple of the Champagne Rhinestone Basic Jewels, and just going to adhere a couple of those around the card front, hopefully, if I can get it to flip over. And again, not really any true rhyme or reason to the way that I put these on the card front, just sort of placed them in spots that I thought they looked pretty. Just added a few in on the perfume bottles. And that's it for the card front. So, like I said, hopefully you like it. I was pretty happy with the way it turned out. I don't know. The perfume bottles, you could definitely experiment and do different colors on them if you would like to. Like I said, I just went with the colors. Originally, I have had like a whole pile of different color combinations laid out, and this was the original color combination. And after I got done laying everything out, I decided I still wanted to go with the original color combination. So anyway, so got a little bit of Highland Heather ink. And again, the sentiment here is from the Strong and Beautiful stamp set. We're going to be stamping that on a piece of Whisper White cardstock. And I went ahead earlier, and again, just because it's the same coloring process, I went ahead and stamped just off the edge of the design, or edge of the Whisper White cardstock in Tuxedo Black Memento ink, and then colored it the same way that I did the card front images with the light and dark Stampin' blends. So, all right, so sorry, it says that it looks really nice. I hadn't been interested in that set. Well, I'm glad that I'm changing it's a really cute set, and like I said, those of you that know me know that I'm not really a girly girl. I'm much more a jeans and tennis shoes kind of girl, as opposed to one that wears high heels and such. But I do have a lot of friends and family members who are much more the high heels variety of girls. So it's a nice set to have, and something that's a little bit fun, because occasionally we all get dressed up, but I just don't do it very often. I'm much more comfortable in my jeans and tennis shoes, but it's fun to play with the stamp set anyway. And the little purses are actually incredibly cute, and they make great gift card holders and things like that. So even if you don't love the stamp set so much, get the dies because they're really cute. So Karen's saying that she loves playing with the stamp set. So yeah, there are no tennis shoes on any of the Designer Series paper, Rosie, are there? So definitely not. Although, I'm I wouldn't be opposed to it. I'd probably use tennis shoe DSP a lot more than I would use high heel DSP. But again, that's just my style, and I know not everyone has the same style as me. So, all right, so that is my card share for today. Again, this is the one that I used as my sample card, and then this is the one that we made here on the video today. Hopefully you enjoyed seeing the card and seeing the stamp set and bundle in action. Again, don't forget next week, Saturday, to hop into our Facebook page and join us for a little ornate garden event. We look forward to having you come and hang out with us and see some projects. So I appreciate you all joining me today. I will plan to be back next week, Tuesday at 2 o'clock Eastern Time on Facebook Live, and then again the following Friday at 2 o'clock Eastern Time out here on YouTube Live. So again, thanks so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful weekend. Hopefully, again, you get a chance at least to talk to your family. If not, not be able to see them on video conference, hopefully you can talk to them. So, all right. Well, thanks again for joining. Have a good rest of your weekend, and we will see you all next week.